Welcome back, everybody. This is Carlos Perron and Steve Avono. Say hi, Steve.
Hi, Carlos.
We are continuing our fall 2010 preview recap show, and this is the final episode of that series. We've already gone through Monday through Sunday. We've done the entire week already, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the shows that are on hiatus or shows that are coming back at a later point, hopefully. And we might also hit a couple of shows that have already been canceled because, believe it or not, 3 or 4 weeks into the season, we've already lost a number of shows. Let's just go down the list here, and I'm going to start with a show called Archer. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Steve.
No, actually, I'm not.
Okay, this is an FX show. It's an animated show that is basically a takeoff on like the secret agent, spy, James Bondy kind of themes. It's very funny. There's some ex-SNL people in it. I don't know like the history of like the people that make the show in terms of what they're famous for, but it's a very, very adult also. It's not for the kids, but it's definitely the type of thing that our crowd would probably find very funny, very racy, and very very adult. Only a half hour. It's a half-hour animated show. And I believe it's coming back next year. I think this might be the second season or the first or the third season. It's not. It hasn't been on for too long, but apparently it has been renewed and it is coming back. Now, if you go down the list here, we also have Big Love. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one, Steve.
I'm very familiar with it. My wife and I love that show. Actually,
cool. Tell
matter of fact,
tell us a little about the show.
Well, it's about a polygamous family, husband who has 3 wives, and in the course of the show, he actually added a 4th wife, but she's fallen away. And it stars Bill Paxton, who has enormous geek credibility with us. He's the big guy.
He's my Campbell, the way you worship Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell,
mine
yeah.
Is Paxton.
We have Bill from all the James Cameron films, really for me, I first noticed him in Weird Science. Actually, that was my first exposure to him, and I've been a fan ever since. So, again, it was one of those situations where, based on the fact that I liked him, I gave the show a chance. And, it's so outrageous in terms of film morality or our view of what marriage is and our view, the fact that this actually goes on and in this country is kind of unbelievable. But the show, it's like a train wreck.
Yeah.
You can't stop watching. You just, it's a well-acted train wreck.
I know, it's weird because it's like you try to be open-minded, and as open-minded as you could be, you're like, well, it's kind of like if somebody were doing this, for example, or doing that, for example, and then you try to rationalize, and you're like, and then it always comes back to, no, this is just nuts. These people are screwed.
Yeah.
They're
crazy.
It's so self-destructive what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and you just keep coming back and hoping that they'll see the light, but it's just
well, that's never going to happen.
And he's
But,
the most likable of all of them. That's the weird.
He is, and what's funny too is as a married man, you say to yourself, how could you handle 3 wives? One wife is hard enough.
Well, he has his schedule, and it's written down, and everybody takes a turn. But it's a good show. We've been renting it lately because my ongoing theme is that I no longer have HBO for a couple of years now, so a lot of these high-pay network cable shows I catch up afterwards. So I'm probably behind. I'm sure I'm behind, and I'm hoping for this last season comes out soon so I can start renting it.
Well, traditionally they come out with the season right on top of the new season airing. So I believe it's coming back in January. And just to a little bit of what happened last season, and I really have no idea where they're going to take the show, because he ran for senator at the end of the last season and won, and now he came out as a polygamist, and that was the end of the last season, and I just can't imagine where they're going to take it, but they always manage to bring something inventive to the show. And I like all the wives too very much, all the actresses.
Yeah, they're very good, and I can't wait for them.
Especially Chloe Sevigny.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
She's been involved. Yeah, she's done a lot of movies lately. She's definitely springboarded out of this show into other stuff.
Yeah,
probably the most successful one of them all.
yeah. But no, it's definitely something that you just, like a lot of cable shows, you feel like you should be repulsed by what you're seeing, but yet you just can't help but watch it.
Oh man, let's see. Working down the list here, we have Breaking Bad.
Oh
I know
yeah,
you're very familiar with the show. I love the show. Been
absolutely,
watching it since the beginning, and as I mentioned to a lot of you guys, to me, Breaking Bad is the new Shield as far as
absolutely.
realism and shocking and the writing. It's just they come up with stuff that you never expect. And it
Hmm.
completely floors you. And I think we're about to enter the fourth season now. They just all a couple of them
Yes.
won Emmys left and right.
Yeah, no, and Aaron Paul definitely, yeah, he won an Emmy, and Bryan
Yep.
Cranston won Emmys, and they're phenomenal actors, and I agree with you completely. The Shield was my favorite show when it was on, and now it's Breaking Bad. The writing is unbelievable. Bryan Cranston is phenomenal. I watched Malcolm in the Middle, and I thought it
Yep.
was a cute show, and he was kind of Looney Tunes, as the
Last person I
father,
would
and
expect to do this
and
role.
never, which really speaks to how great of an actor he is. And again, with these cable shows like Breaking Bad, like The Shield, you just wonder it's spiraling towards some sort of an end game, and you just don't know how they're going to come out of it. He's got to in these shows. There's something really wrong going on. Even Big Love to a certain extent, and with this show, so you get the sense that
What's the message?
is it for everything he's doing. Yeah, I mean, in the sense that he started this whole thing because he wanted to provide for his family. He is a good man at his core, but he's lost probably all the morality that he had in doing all the things that he has done. He's become a murderer, and this last season, the way the turns that it took with his wife and the divorce and his relationship with Jesse, and
It's
it never ceases to
it's
amaze me.
funny because it's like you start thinking about what possible outcomes can you have with this show, which is a special show.
Right,
Some other shows you don't really care about, but this show I care
right,
about. And it's kind of like,
definitely.
well, are they going to do the Soprano route? The nobody knows what happens. Are they going to do the guy just completely self collapses and dies or something, or are they going
Hmm.
to try to do a Shield type of ending where he turns kind of like state's evidence and has to rat everybody out and
Hmm.
betray everybody, which is another
Right.
good ending. But it would be a little too tragic in my. I mean, with Vic Mackey, you wanted the guy you just wanted him to suffer and get something bad happen to him. But this guy, I don't hate him as much.
No, I don't. Well, I got to tell you, I didn't hate Vic Mackey, and I didn't want him to like die or suffer.
well,
I love the
from
ending to The
episode
Shield.
one, the guy kills a cop.
I know, but he is so likable, and that's the thing about these shows, these characters. You can't help but like them, even though they're doing bad things. And but in the case of Breaking Bad, you just feel so terribly for the course that his life has taken. He got screwed out of uh, the inventions, the patents or whatever with his partner, and his partner's a millionaire, and
Yeah.
he's just a high school teacher, and you just feel the end of the stick at every turn. And now he knows he's dying, and he resorts to this desperate act to make sure his family's provided for. But then he lives longer than he thought, and then this thing continues on and spirals into these other directions. I mean, even the plane crash is a
Oh,
direct result of
of what's happened.
his life decision. So, he's got a lot to answer for. I don't know if they're ever going to go, if the finale is ever going to satisfy.
Oh man, let's move down to Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't know. Have you
Okay.
ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, that's the Larry David vehicle, ex Seinfeld creator. He's had this show for many years, and from what I remember, when I had cable, I would watch it. But then around the time Sopranos ended, that's when I dumped cable, when I dumped the HBO, and Curb Your Enthusiasm went like on a 2 year hiatus, a really long hiatus, and hasn't
Hmm.
come back uh, up until like a couple months ago, or almost a year ago. So I am now
Right.
finally catching up to this season that I've never seen before, which took forever to return. And it's a great show. It is a specific type of comedy that I don't think exists anywhere, and a lot of people are starting to mimic it now and recently, especially with a show that I'm going to talk about later. From what I understand, the show doesn't have scripts per se, but it's more like plots, and the actors kind of ad lib their parts. And you can
Oh,
tell
wow.
when you watch it, it feels very weird how people are delivering lines or interacting with each other. And
Hmm.
but it's also, I mean, he's the lead character in the show. He plays himself basically, and he is this character that's very uncomfortable to watch in terms of he's always ready to say something horrible and get himself in
Horrible.
trouble. And it reminds me of specific people I've known, and I know that it's like you go out with them and it's a train wreck waiting to happen. And
Yeah,
this is
there's no internal monologue.
exactly, and this character that he portrays, which is again, it's himself. He plays himself.
It's himself. This is who he is in real life.
It's amazing. You're watching the show and you're like, oh no, here it comes. It's like you're watching me. You're like, don't say anything. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. It's like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
no, he said something. And it's a great show, and I can't wait to continue watching it. And this is strongly recommended to everybody.
Hmm.
Let's see, what do we got next? We got Deck.
Actually,
Go ahead.
but actually, before we do that, I just noticed on the list Damages
Yes.
with Glenn Close. That's a show
Oh, okay.
that I watch, and it actually was renewed not by FX, but it's coming back on DirecTV for 2 more seasons at
Oh my
least.
God.
It almost got canceled. It's very highly critically rated, but the Nielsen's weren't good for it.
Has DirecTV done this before? Continued a show?
Well, I believe they did something similar with Friday Night Lights on
Oh,
NBC.
that's right. That's right. That show is kind of still on in a way.
Yeah, so they picked up Damages, and it's another one of those shows. I think even though it won't be on FX anymore, FX is one of the, just to make a little aside here, their shows for the last few years, the stuff that they've been coming out with, both on the drama and the comedy side, have been phenomenal. And Damages, I think, is no exception. I mean, Glenn Close is a tremendous actress, and
And she's still on the show?
she's still on the show. And it was the kind of show that you didn't know could last past its first season, but it's gone on to 3 seasons. And the last season, they did sort of a takeoff on the whole Bernie Madoff storyline.
Wow.
Which was very well done, and they bring in some terrific actors who you wouldn't expect. Like this, like Ted Danson. They had Lily Tomlin, Martin Short, people that you just wouldn't think would work in this kind of a dramatic setting. And it's also unique for the way it tells its stories. It has sort of a non-linear narrative. It jumps back and forth from the beginning to the end, and kind of meet in the middle by the end of the season. So it can be a little confusing sometimes, but
Wow.
it's really very dramatic. And Glenn Close she's the anchor of the show. She's really the character she plays is this really tough lady who has had a lot of horrible things happen to her in her life, and she's kind of emotionally closed off, and she's really ruthless.
She's hit television a couple times very successfully. She was in The Shield. She played one of the
Yes.
captains at one point. She was very good at that too.
It was the experience of working with her on the Shield that FX led to giving her own show.
Wow.
And the other main character on the show is Rose Byrne, who's a British actress, who's sort of not the sidekick, but she's kind of the antagonist to Glenn Close, and they have an interesting relationship that has developed over the years. But I'm happy that it's coming back. It almost didn't make it, and it's another one of those great cable shows.
Cool. All right, let's move on to Dexter. Now, again, Dexter is one of these shows for me that I catch up on DVD. I have not seen
Hmm.
the last season, and from what I understand, it's been the best season so
Absolutely
far.
was.
And I am salivating, waiting for this to arrive. And my wife, we both watch it, and
Yeah.
I use Blockbuster Online, and that damn disc is always long, very long wait, very long.
Yeah.
I'll drive,
That's what
drive
happens.
anywhere and pick it up if you tell me where to get it. But
Okay.
no, I gotta wait, and now the fourth season is about to start, so it's like I gotta catch up because sooner or later somebody's gonna spoil this for me.
Yeah, I can't believe it hasn't been already. You're good at hiding from spoilers.
But the show, I mean, I love the show. It is again. Remember we were talking on a couple of episodes ago about this sitcom you're watching that's about a serial killer, and when I even heard the premise of Dexter, I'm like, how on earth can anybody make a show where the serial killer is the likable character? It just doesn't
Exactly.
make
He's
sense.
sympathetic. Yeah, he's a sympathetic lead, and yet
he was
he's a serial
right,
killer.
and he was coming off of 6 Feet Under, so it was kind of like, oh, that's it. Well, it's the guy from 6 Feet Under. Let's see what he can do. He's already played a kind of weird kind of character, and
Hmm.
my God, this is a great show. Very,
Yes.
very, very graphic.
Yes.
But it blows away all the CSIs I watch and all that other stuff. It blows it away. It's just a
Oh
good
yeah,
show.
yeah. He's again. It's just a theme here as we're discussing these cable shows with the network shows. They, for the most part, they seem to stick with right and wrong, black and white. There's nothing kind of in between. They stick with not necessarily always. It's not always family oriented stuff, but you could call Dexter a black comedy at times. You could it's more than just a crime drama.
Hmm.
And Michael C. Hall he's unbelievable. I mean the way he has developed this character, and I love the supporting cast. I love James Remar playing his dead father, the conversations that he has with him. The only character I really don't like is his sister, who's his real life
That's
wife.
right. That's weird.
You know, the one who plays Deb. I really can't stand her. I think all she is angry and curses a lot. She doesn't bring much to the table as far as I'm concerned. But the other characters are,
But they seem to have excellent guests, like series long
guest
guest stars.
villains.
Jimmy Smith
Yeah,
was great. I hear John Lithgow was awesome.
John Lithgow knocked it out of the park. And then you have other people like Keith Carradine, who's been on as a FBI agent, who's come back to the show, recurred on the show. And yeah, no, they definitely get high-powered stars. And just also, Julie Benz plays his wife Rita, and she, I'm not so in love with the character because she's always kind of naggy and everything, but I like the dynamic that they had, and just the fact that here again, this is unbelievable. This guy's a serial killer, and he's settling down, and he's having kids, and he's trying to, but yet he still has the compulsion to do what he does. And again, you can't help but watch so much more involving and interesting than what's on the networks.
I know. I know.
Not that I don't watch what's on the networks, but this is the stuff I'm really excited about.
Yeah, they've definitely grown in terms of the place for alternative shows where they just really are able to succeed very well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm going to Human Target next.
Okay.
Have you seen the Human Target at all?
No, and you think I would because it's based on a DC comic.
Right.
but
From
it
what I
was-
understand, it's a comic book spin-off.
Yes, and I'm familiar with the comic, but you know what? It's not a superhero comic, and it's just not something that it didn't appeal to me as a comic. So when it was made into a show, and just for trivia's sake, this is not the first time the Human Target was made into a
Oh, wow.
television show. It was over 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago, that it was on ABC, and Rick Springfield was the. And I have the pilot. I have it. It was pretty bad.
Good.
And
I have my
but
music,
it's the
and
same.
you have his videos. Wonderful.
Yeah. and
You complete me.
so yeah, so yeah, so this isn't the first time. Maybe I had a bad taste in my mouth from that one, but I just figured, this is not for me. So I didn't give it a chance.
Wow, I would definitely love to take a look at that one day.
I could give you a
Just
copy,
for
dude.
laughs.
Yeah.
I watched the show. It's one of these shows that I don't particularly chase as fondly as other shows, but it was kind of like a filler show for me when it first started. And it's some interesting characters, especially Joel Osment, Haley Osment, or whatever that guy's name is. He's really good.
Mhm.
The lead character was also the boyfriend in The Fringe before he dies. So it's like,
Right.
whoa, that guy looks familiar. It's an interesting show. It kind of falls under the Burn Notice realm of stuff that which I forgot to talk about, which I'm going to jump on next. It's these little action-y shows that if they go away, I won't be too sad. But if they're there, they fill the time, and they're interesting. And that I'm going to jump to Burn Notice again. Similar show in terms of it's an action ex-spy type of vehicle. Bruce Campbell's in it, which was my first draw to the show.
There you go.
And
There you go.
anything he does, we at least have to take a look at. And it kept me interesting. It's not totally realistic, but it's entertaining, and it's
Right.
it serves a purpose.
Yeah, that's fine. If you're just getting entertained and you're not learning lessons, or it's okay. It's okay.
All right, Steve, let me know what other show you have from the list of stuff that's out there.
Well, right now, watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is another FX comedy, and
Is this the one with Danny DeVito?
yes, it is, and like their dramas, again, it's brilliant. Honestly, I think FX is probably the premier cable network in terms of scripted shows. This one is about five really depraved slackers who run their own Irish pub in
We can
Philadelphia,
relate.
and there's really nothing redeeming about any of these characters. They're dishonest. They're greedy. Everything is a scheme. They're always trying to come up with something that's going to make them rich or famous, or they there's nothing redeeming about them. And there's no, even though they hang out with each other, and there's actually a brother and sister in this group. They sell each other out to the highest bidder. They really enjoy watching each other suffer. They blackmail each other. They manipulate each other, and the schemes that they come up with are just hysterical. And outrageous. After the first season, Danny DeVito joined the cast,
Oh,
and he's only added to it. He's actually the father of the brother and sister, and he really seemed to, from what I understand, he was a fan of the show, and he just bought into the whole uh, concept. And since he's been on, it's only gotten better. It's in its fifth
wow.
season. And as I said, every episode is more outrageous than the next, and they don't seem like they're in any danger of slowing down. I think FX has renewed them for another season on top of this one, and yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite
Well, I've
comedies.
definitely heard about it. I haven't had a chance to jump on it because again, there's just so much stuff out there. And cable
Sure.
sometimes it's almost like a second tier in terms of I always think of network and broadcast shows first, and then all right, let me go explore the cable side. But yeah,
Hmm.
I've heard really good things about it. Let's say moving
It's
on
a
here,
great.
we have a show that I think we both enjoy called Justified, and
Yep.
this is it's an FX show in the FX tradition of the cop show that's a little out there in terms of the style and the violence. But this is a little different because it's a from what I understand it's an Elmore
Elmore
Leonard,
Leonard
so it's a different style to the show. It's almost I don't want to say it's a comedy, but it's almost like a black comedy at times.
at
They
times.
take they have a humorous edge to it with the bad guys. Like the bad guys are never really that bad guys. They're kind of like good old boy bad guys, very Western
Well,
like a bad guy.
yeah, honestly, because I think possibly because Timothy Oliphant
Hmm.
is in it. I don't know if you watched Deadwood on
Loved it.
HBO, but yeah, I loved it too. And for some reason, it really reminds me of that. I mean, the character he
His
plays,
character, it's I don't want to say it's a carbon copy, but it's in the family of that character.
the guy could be a descendant of his character in Deadwood, and
Looks like him. He
he's
talks
still
like he walks like him. It's him.
he's got that straight
Yep.
arrow kind of mentality. He's got the 10-gallon hat, and so it's definitely reminiscent of Deadwood for me. And it's a small town. Everybody knows each other, cousins, and they all grew up together. And some of them, became cops, and a lot of them became criminals. And there's animosity between them, but it's not like The Shield
No.
or something where there's this real there's this real line
Yes.
drawn between the good guys and the bad
And
guys.
one little trivia fact about the show that ties it to the geekness of it: the guy who plays his ex-wife's husband, who's a bit of a dirtbag, is the actor who played Charlie Brewster on the original Fright Night.
Oh, that's right.
And
Yes, that's
I,
right.
speaking of Fright Night, I know they're remaking Fright Night. I hope some of these, whoever's alive left, from that original film, I hope they put him in a cameo or something because that's the original Charlie Brewster.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I love the show. It's a great show. I can't wait for it to come back. And yeah, it's a different. It's definitely not The Shield, but it's got a sharp edge to it. Like I said, black comedy and straight cop show, but it's got that Western
Hmm.
flavor going through it.
Absolutely. And just also, you talk about the Shield. Walton Goggins,
Oh,
who was
big guy.
Shane on the Shield, was originally only supposed to be in the pilot. People liked him so much, he was supposed to be killed off after the first episode. Now he's a regular cast member.
Yeah, and he plays a very different. He's a
Well,
dirtbag,
it's
but
like,
his
but it's like you
the
said,
flip side,
you
but it's
know,
the same.
right? It's a similar kind of thing because he is a bad guy, so to speak, but in the finale of the first season, they were working
Yeah.
together.
Yep. Now,
So.
what do you have going down the list? Is there any shows that you've been watching that because I haven't seen too many of these?
Well, after Justified, you have Law and Order, Criminal Intent, and how much can I say more about Law and Order? It's the same,
Like the other ones you mentioned before.
This is a little, yeah, it's if it's got the Law and Order label on it, I'm going to watch it. And actually, the only thing worth mentioning really is that Jeff Goldblum had been on the show for the last 2 seasons, but he's decided to leave, and they're canceling the show after the next season. But Vincent D'Onofrio is
Oh
coming
wow.
back for the last season, and so is Catherine Irby, who played his partner, and so that should be good because I kind of miss them. Sort of like Law and Order SVU, where they had the same detectives on the show. That was they did that in Criminal Intent. And when they left the show, they kind of lost something. And D'Onofrio was an amazing
D'Onofrio,
actor.
I'm
So
surprised that he's kind of gone to TV and kind of stayed there. I imagine he would be the type of actor who would have had a Jack Nicholson type of career, making a De
yeah,
Niro type of guy. But it's like I wish I could
he
see
he
more of him.
he started out in Full Metal Jacket. I mean, he really started off, looking like he was going places, and then, again with the geek street cred, he was in Men in
Yep.
Black, which
And I liked them. I even
uh,
liked them on The Cell, if you remember that movie.
The Cell was a very inventive
Uh-huh.
film, and I enjoyed that very much. But then he went to TV, so I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say if this was his choice or if he couldn't get any other roles. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm a little shocked that he went in this direction.
This brings to an end part one of our TV shows on hiatus special. Please join us again next time when we will continue with part two of this special show. On behalf of Steve Avona and myself, thank you for joining us, and see you next time on Geekfest Rants.